Dr. Wallach is an expert on nutrition and longevity and is the famed author of the audio message, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, which has been heard by more than 50 million people. Get ready to learn and to laugh as Dr. Wallach shares some important facts that could very well save your life. And now, here is Dr. Joel Wallach.
Hooah! Since most of you heard the tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, I don't have to give a lot of introduction to myself other than to remind you the thing that makes my view different on health, I think, is that I'm a veterinarian as well as a physician. And in veterinary medicine, we don't have health insurance for animals like we do people. And if we were to use a human healthcare type of system for animals or livestock, it'd be sticker shock for you. Your hamburger would cost you $275 a pound. Boneless, skinless chicken breast would be $450 a pound. A dozen eggs would be $50 just to pay for the health care. So we learned a long time ago in the animal industry that we could keep the price of animal products such as meat and dairy and poultry and eggs down to where the average American could afford to eat them every day simply by eliminating health care cost. We do this in animals with simple little nutritional formulas, and that's why we have mouse pellets and rat pellets and hamster pellets and gerbil pellets and guinea pig pellets and rabbit pellets. We have canned and dried dog and cat food. We have pig pellets and sheep pellets and horse pellets and calf pellets and dairy pellets and ferret pellets and duck pellets and turkey pellets and trout pellets and catfish pellets and monkey pellets and pigeon pellets. I mean, every kind of animal you can think of that's been domesticated or used as a pet or a laboratory animal, we have pellets for. And the reason why we put animal feeds or animal rations into a pelletized form is so that every mouthful is perfect. Even the stupidest animal in the group gets a perfect diet. They can't sort through and just eat only the sunflower seeds or the raisins. Every mouthful is perfect. And we do that to standardize production. And it's been a real blessing for the agricultural industry. We were so successful that over the last 75 years, we were able to eliminate 900 different diseases. We've doubled and tripled lifespans of animals with these simple little nutritional formulas. And as a veterinarian, it always was kind of interesting to me that we didn't use that same technology for people. We only spent $100 billion figuring all this out for animals over a 75-year period, which is nothing, as you will see tonight, compared to what we spend for human health on a yearly basis. So it's a pittance to eliminate 900 different diseases in animals. Well, one of the things, before I became a physician, I was involved with a big research project with Marlin Perkins from the old Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdom show. How many remember Marlin Perkins? Great gentleman, and I was really, really honored that he would think of me as a wildlife pathologist. I was in Africa actually doing conservation work, and he sent me a telegram, invited me back to the States in the mid-'60s, because he had gotten a $7.5 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. And this was to study pollution in the environment and the world ecology. And my job on the project was to do autopsies of animals that died of natural causes in the big zoos around the United States, because big zoos tended to be associated with big cities. And if there was any pollution problems going on in the cities, there was bound to be an animal in the zoo population that would be sensitive to the pollution. And we could use that animal much like the old coal miners used to use canaries. You know, they'd take the canary down to the mine, and if a little gas or methane would leak into the mine, the canaries were much more sensitive than the men, and they would drop off the perch and die long before the men were in danger of blowing up or suffocating. So that was the purpose of the study. Well, to make a long story short, over some years I had done 17,500 autopsies on over 454 species of animals and 3,000 human beings for a comparison. And what I learned, ladies and gentlemen, was that every animal and every human being that dies of natural causes dies of a nutritional deficiency disease. I'm going to repeat that because that's a very profound observation. Every animal and every human being that dies of natural causes dies of a nutritional deficiency disease. And of course, that was poo-pooed by many medical experts back then, because how could anybody die of a nutritional disease in America, right? There's no evidence to support the claim that we can prevent and cure diseases with vitamins and minerals. Raise your hand if you ever heard some version of that. No evidence to support the claim you can prevent and cure diseases with vitamins and minerals. Doctors say that, experts say that, professors say it, bureaucrats say that, everybody says that. Well, how many of you have ever heard of scurvy? Raise your hand. Sure, you know you can prevent and cure scurvy with vitamin C? How many of you have heard of rickets? Raise your hand. You know you can prevent and cure rickets with vitamin D? How many of you have heard of goiter? Raise your hand. You know you can prevent and cure goiter with iodine and copper and selenium? How many of you have heard of anemia? Raise your hand. Golly gee, you know you can prevent and cure anemia with iron and copper and folic acid and vitamin B12? And what about things like beriberi with congestive heart failure? You know you can prevent and cure that with thiamine or vitamin B1? And what about pellagra with all the emotional stuff and schizophrenia and diarrhea and all the skin diseases that go along with pellagra? You can prevent and cure that with vitamin B3, or niacin. And all the essential nutrients are called essential nutrients because if you don't have enough, you get diseases. If you get the disease, you take the nutrient, it goes away. So any doctor, any expert, any bureaucrat, any professor, anybody who says there's no evidence to support the claim you can prevent and cure diseases with vitamins and minerals is a fool. And you don't want to have a fool for a doctor. That's the last person you want to have as a fool as a doctor, right? Well, I was really pleased to see this come out in October of 2002. This was a World Health Organization study. They said that the study finds life expectancy closely mirrors dietary factors. They went on to say nearly 1/3 of early death and disability stems from nutritional or dietary causes, including too little food in the poorest countries, the wrong kind of food in the richest countries. And then this was perhaps the most profound observation they made. Inadequate intake of 3 key micronutrients, zinc, iron, and vitamin A, is responsible for an unexpectedly high burden of disease. Now, there's 90 essential nutrients. They didn't even look at the other 87. Okay? And so finally, 40 years later, they came to the same conclusion. So I feel pretty good about that. Well, as I said, there's all these essential nutrients. There's 2 reasons why they're called essential nutrients. Number 1, our bodies cannot manufacture them. We must consume them every day, either as food or as supplements. Number 2, if you're missing them, you get some horrible collection of diseases, many of which are life-threatening. That's why they're called essential nutrients. The ones I like to talk about are mineral deficiencies because they make up 2/3 of the essential nutrients. 2/3 of the essential nutrients are minerals, and our foods cannot manufacture them. Our food plants cannot manufacture minerals. Our food plants, our grains, vegetables, fruits, and nuts, can in fact manufacture vitamins and amino acids and fatty acids. We all know that. But if you can find me any plant that will manufacture a mineral, I'll give you $1 million tax-free, small bills in any offshore account you want. Okay, you'll be really very wealthy if you can find me a plant that will manufacture minerals. There's no such plant. Nutritional minerals do not occur. They do not occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. Nutritional minerals occur in veins like chocolate and chocolate ripple ice cream. Nutritional minerals occur in veins like gold and silver. And the odds of you getting all essential nutrients and all essential minerals just by eating well is 0. In the same field, for instance, on one farm, in the same field, row number 1 might have 3 essential minerals, row number 5 might have 0, row number 10 might have 8, row number 15 might have 20, row number 20 might have 0, row number 25 may have 0, row number 30 might have 16. And so it depends on which row in the field that your tomato or your corn or your soybeans or your wheat came from, what minerals you're getting. To be happy, plants only need 9 minerals. We need 60. And so if the plant's very happy and you look at it, man, this is a really good-looking carrot. You know it has 9 minerals, but what about the other 51? And it doesn't make sense to throw your life away, or at least part of your longevity or your health, on what may or may not be in the food, because you can't tell by looking at the carrot. As long as it's getting its 9 minerals, it's happy. Okay? Then you start seeing things like this. This is actually from 1995. Healthy crops depend on healthy soil. Well, everybody knows that, need 9 minerals. But the new report says that nearly 40% of the world's land use for agriculture is seriously degraded, which means it doesn't have these nutrients in it anymore. Loss of good soil of cancer. This came out in 1992. And they said that African soils over the last 100 years in 1992 had been depleted in its fertility by 74%, Asia by 73%, Australia by 55%, Europe 72%, the United States, North America 85%, and South America by 76%. I thought this was kind of interesting. This came out in January of 2000, and this was a little report, and I never have taken the time to get the original because this is self-explanatory. Some blame the environment. USDA says better test a factor. Well, I think it's more serious than that. They compared a 22-year period from 1975 to 1997 on certain nutrient values in our food, and they took the 12 most popular vegetables that are grown and eaten in America, including broccoli and cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, collards, daikon, kale, mustard greens, onions, parsley, turnip greens, watercress, etc. They found out that there was a 53% drop in the calcium values. They found out there was a 38% drop in vitamin A, 48% drop in riboflavin B2, 35% less thiamine or B1, and a 29% less niacin or vitamin B3. And again, the reason is, if you're not putting the essential minerals in the soil that the plant needs, slowly, their ability to manufacture vitamins begins to drop. We know that today there's only about 8% protein in our wheat. 1900, there was 23% protein in our wheat. Okay? This is not a mystery that you can prevent and cure diseases with vitamins and minerals. This came out in 1992. Cover article, Time magazine, The Real Power of Vitamins. New research shows they may help fight cancer, heart disease, and the ravages of aging. Now, it was very obvious after writing some 75 scientific articles on these diseases that were caused by deficiencies of vitamins and minerals and trace minerals and amino acids and fatty acids in animals and people. 75 scientific articles were published in medical journals and veterinary journals, pathology journals. Wrote chapters for 8 multi-author textbooks on the subject. Wrote a big textbook of my own, big 1,000-page textbook, trying to educate medical students. Was not very successful at that, and it was very obvious nothing was going to happen. So I went back to school and became a physician. In 1978, began to use these veterinary nutritional formulas in my human patients. And one of the things I wanted to do special for my patients was to get them to live to be an average of 100 instead of 75. So I began to collect information on what it takes to live to be 100 instead of 75. And it's very interesting. A certain percentage of my patients back then, in 1978, would say things like, I don't think I want to live to be 100. I said, well, why wouldn't you want to live to be 100? Well, I don't want to wind up in a nursing home and be abused. And I thought that was kind of reasonable concern. So I began to collect information on 100-year-olds that would satisfy me that I was doing the right thing to help my patients live to be 100. And this is a sort of evidence you can find. This happens to be from September 2000. This is a cover of this particular issue of Scientific American. It's a great little scientific journal that they use to teach the scientific method to high school kids and college students. And they write it in the 5th grade reading level so college students can understand it. And this particular issue is almost entirely devoted to human longevity. They had articles in there by experts in gerontology and genetics and nutrition. And there was a little summary at the end to tell you what you were supposed to learn in this issue. And they were editorially scratching their head trying to figure out what was going on, because they were trying to find out what it was it would take people to live to be 100. And they compared the people who didn't listen to their doctors with the people who did listen to their doctors. They found out that the ones who did not listen to their doctors lived longer than the ones who listened to the doctors. Huh? And something we've known for a long time, right? So scientifically, they observed that, and they found out that the people who live longer salted their food, ate eggs every day, cooked and ate with butter, didn't use margarine. Many of them smoked. Many of them ate white lining behind the barn and were drunk all the time. The only exercise they did when they came home after work was to fall asleep on the floor. They didn't come home, take a shower, and go to the fitness center. And as I said, they ate eggs instead of egg beaters. They used butter instead of margarine. They ate their chicken skin. And they were just flabbergasted. They couldn't figure out why these people doing all the wrong things were living so